All right, take two. Mank, Netflix original film. If you've seen this channel before, I'm very impressed with what Netflix has been doing lately with The Irishman, Marriage Story. I think they produced Uncut Gems, not too sure. Either way, Netflix doing a really good job, and there's a chance that they might sweep the next Oscars because of this movie, Mank, getting a lot of attention. Starring Gary Oldman, directed by David Fincher. I love David Fincher. I can't remember what video I brought it up in, but I was kind of saying that David Fincher is kind of reusing the old same tropes that Atticus and Nine Inch Nails soundtrack, the desaturated color look, the film noir feel. I liked it, don't get me wrong, but I wanted to see David Fincher try something different. Also, this movie was actually written by his father, Jack Fincher. And this was written way back in the year 2000 or 2001. I think that's when his father passed away. This movie has been a long time coming. Took 20 years to get finally released. What is this movie about? Follows Herman Mankiewicz, screenwriter of Citizen Kane, as he struggles to complete the first draft of Citizen Kane for Orson Welles. That's the plot you'll see on IMDb. However, the plot is a lot more thick and a lot more stuff going on in there. You're basically jumping between 2 points in time. Mank trying to write Citizen Kane and Mank discovering the film industry because he used to be a playwright. And how his discovery of the film industry and its intricacies led him to finally write Citizen Kane. What they don't tell you in the trailer is that this movie requires not only knowledge of Citizen Kane and who Orson Welles is, you also need to know about the studio system in Hollywood, film history, and a lot of just American history in general. This movie deals with the Great Depression, FDR, so a lot of American history going on there. So if you're not too familiar with it, I suggest you watch Citizen Kane before and do a little digging up on the Great Depression. This movie is basically about a guy who kind of scoffs at film. He's a playwright, he doesn't really understand film, and he slowly starts to realize that not only is film a valid form of entertainment, it's also a very powerful form of entertainment, capable of very nefarious things, stuff such as propaganda. He also discovers that the film industry is quite a industrial powerhouse, and that leads to corruption in different ways. I really love this movie. This movie was amazing. I've been dying to see David Fincher do something a little different, and this definitely is that. David Fincher is a very visual, graphic filmmaker. All of his movies are brutally violent or have explicit sex scenes in there. Everything feels desaturated, and everything is kind of like, in a good way. I made it sound bad, but it's a good thing. It's a very gritty look at human nature. This is not that. It's a black and white film, and it's very fun, charming, until things kind of take a turn in the second half of the film. Right off from the opening, I love the opening of this film. This should be a law in the Constitution of the United States. If you're making a streaming film, a movie meant for Amazon Prime, Netflix, Hulu, whatever, if you're making a streaming film, you must have opening credits. This should be a rule. You don't go from clicking on the film. What was the last thing that... I was watching Avengers Infinity War on Netflix, and I'm going from scrolling, what am I going to watch on Netflix, to clicking on Avengers Infinity War, and 5 minutes later, Loki is getting strangled by Thanos. I'm like, that escalated quickly. 5 minutes ago, I was trying to look for something. I was hesitated between Avengers Infinity War and the House Bunny. Now I'm watching fucking Loki getting strangled. I like a little foreplay is what I'm saying. Put some opening credits, let me get in the mood. let me fix the lighting of my basement. I'm picky like that. I have a little OCD, I think. But other than that, film is very charming in the way it pays tribute to the 1940s. Not only is the opening credits in the style of the 1940s, little subtle things like reel changes. Sometimes the film will kind of jitter like you're watching it on a projector. Stuff like that. And not only is it doing subtle references to old film, it's doing subtle references to Citizen Kane, which I did appreciate a lot. So when you go to the mayor's mansion, mayor being the guy behind MGM, he's got the same fireplace as Orson Welles' character in Citizen Kane. Subtle references like that. The cinematography is very reminiscent of what Citizen Kane did. And if you understand the cinematography behind Citizen Kane, what it did with like that giant fireplace, for instance, perspective, there's a lot of that going on in this film. Gary Oldman is really, really fun in this movie. Gary Oldman, like, we know him as like this British actor who's like, he played Winston Churchill, for instance. Gary Oldman is a lot more versatile than people nowadays realize. Like, you look at a movie like True Romance, where he's just like some pimp, or you look at Bram Stoker's Dracula. Very versatile career, and in this movie he plays a more comedic performance. He's like a cartoonish drunk who's stumbling his way into these different scenarios in Hollywood, and it really works. This movie in general reminded me a lot of what Hail Caesar was trying to be, that movie by the Coen brothers, taking a same romantic look at retro Hollywood and seeing how actually it's dark and a little corrupt. Movie deals with similar themes, but I thought this was a lot better, and Gary Oldman definitely carried this film. Tremendous actor. Movie has a lot to say about politics as well, and it never feels hammy or forced. This is a perfect example of a movie that is political. You can relate it to temporary times. However, it's timeless. You can watch it in any generation. I was hoping they wouldn't like fucking pull a Black Klansman. You know, in Black Klansman, when you get that the message of the film can relate to present day, but that's like not it. You have to fucking put Donald Trump at the end of the movie. That movie could have done that, didn't do that. Perfect, thank you. I did have a few problems with the film. This isn't a perfect movie, albeit it's a very, 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 very good movie. Some of the stylistic choices in here don't really work for me. Fincher is really paying homage to 40s film, as I mentioned earlier. However, some of the CG in this film clashes with that, which is shocking because David Fincher really does subtle CG in his films. But in this movie, there's a part with a CG monkey and it kind of didn't work. It kind of looks jarring in this black and white film. Even stuff like when the characters are driving, this could have been a perfect opportunity to use rear projection, but they decide to use green screen, and you can kind of tell. Also, this is a major, major, major nitpick. There's like a part where the symbolism was a little on the nose. There's a part where Mank goes to a party, and they're trying to show the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer by having the fucking champagne in the glass and it goes down to the other glasses. That shit is in my fucking economics textbook when they're trying to explain trickle-down economics, and they used it in this movie to represent that as well. It took me out of the film for 1 second. It's okay. I forgive it. But overall, just watching Gary Oldman being a drunk, stumbling his way into these different scenarios and realizing the intricacies of Hollywood and how it's corrupt, I can see why it took this long for Jack Fincher's screenplay to get made. Because this feels like punk rock. This feels like a movie about down with the system, but like more classy and directed by David Fincher. It was really an intelligent, well-made film. I can see why Jack Fincher's film didn't get made until now. It really took a Netflix to make this movie. I don't see any studio wanting to make this kind of film because it kind of throws shade not only at MGM Studios, but at the whole Hollywood system in general, how it's corrupt, how they do propaganda, how they try to mind manipulate people. And that was ultimately the influence of Mank's life on Citizen Kane. That's what he tried to represent in Citizen Kane. And I thought all that was very interesting. I don't think people are going to like this as much as David Fincher's other movies. I don't see people running out of this film. It doesn't have those gut-punching moments like something like The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo has. It never feels like you walk out of the film and you're like, oh my god, you remember that scene where she gets revenge? And there's never like that big moment. But nor should it have that big moment. This is a more subdued film. I loved everything about it. Very well made film. Thank you, Mr. Fincher.